when I started YouTube again, because some of y'all know, but everybody doesn't know that like I had a YouTube, what was it? Probably 2021-ish. I had a YouTube some years ago, and I was posting on there and it was doing good for a while, but then I just was inconsistent. And then one day I asked God, one day last year I asked God, like, what should I be doing? And I just kept hearing YouTube, and I hadn't even thought about YouTube for so long, but randomly I would, you know, think about picking up my camera and recording something, vlogging something, but I don't know, I feel like I never really had a vision for YouTube. And now I feel like I have a faint vision for it. Like the way that I show up for my friends and my family by listening to them and either giving advice or just simply being there to hear them out. I feel like maybe I'm purposed to do the same thing with YouTube, but essentially talk about the things that I'm going through so that it might help somebody else. And I don't know, I feel like it comes natural to me to just like talk about stuff because I'm a yapper, y'all. If y'all haven't known already by watching any of the other videos that I have, I can yap all day. But I think there's a specific vulnerability that comes in with talking about things that I'm going through, and I feel like maybe that's what I'm purposed for. And it took a while to kind of come to that conclusion, but I realized that I do want to help people, even if it's not on an individual basis of them specifically talking to me about their issues, but maybe my vulnerability will help somebody else with what they're going through. Oftentimes I've noticed that with my sisters and with my friends, sometimes I will go through something before they go through it, and then I can kind of give them a little bit of advice while they're going through it. I realize that maybe that's why I go through things first, so that I can be that ear for somebody, and then I can also be that sound voice. Now when I be going through it, baby, I don't have a sound voice, okay? Not for myself at least. And thank you to the people that be praying for me, but sound weird. I've always asked God also like to help me to go through things with grace. Be careful when y'all ask that though. Be very careful, because that's when fireballs start coming straight at you, honey, and you think you finna take it in stride, and then you be mad. Yeah, be pissed. But I'm thinking that maybe that's what I am purposed to do. And yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. So I think, I don't know, I guess I could also try to be like encouraging to people as well. What I've been going through recently is like understanding that I do have a different purpose than what I initially thought. Actually, to be completely honest, I never thought I had a purpose. Telling you just a little bit of my story, I used to suffer with suicidal thoughts because I didn't think that there was a reason for me specifically to be here outside of like suffering. I felt like I had a lot of things in my childhood that, and really I don't even remember a lot of my childhood, but I felt like I had, you know, a lot of things in my childhood that really stuck with me, and it was very hard to walk through those things. And as I got older, if anything piled on top of me, it felt like it was crushing me. And I was depressed for a long time, and I suffered with suicidal thoughts for a long time. And I remember there was this one time I had so I was coming from LA back home to St. Louis, and at that time I was still in school, but how the military did it, sorry y'all, I was in the Air Force, spoiler alert. I was in the Air Force, and they pay for your tuition, they'll also pay for your housing. So coming from the state where my school was located to my hometown, there was a drastic financial change. They would still pay for my tuition, but because I was going to be all online, I wasn't going to get the full housing payment. So that took it down from almost, I want to say I was getting maybe like $3,200 a month in LA to about $600 in St. Louis. And at that time, because I thought that, you know, they were still going to pay a lot of my rent, I didn't get another job when I moved back. I said I just wanted to continue focusing on school. Well, they ended up overpaying me 1 month, so I had to pay a little bit of that back, or actually really a lot of that back, which meant that the payment for my housing and stuff was going to go down even more. And I think my rent at that time, it was either $1,075 or it was $1,100. Either way, it was over $1,000, and I didn't have that. So I started doing Instacart. Well, I'm doing Instacart for a while, and it was very hard. I was struggling because I was so used to making money a different way and having like a stable income where, okay, I go to work and then I know I'm gonna make this amount of money, and in 2 weeks I'm gonna get paid. And granted, Instacart was cool for a while because you can get paid every single day. You get your money right then and there. But it was a struggle figuring out how I was going to pay $1,100 in rent, and then I had a car note and car insurance, and then electricity and my phone bill. It was a lot, and I was struggling. I was going through so much stress, and then I ended up getting into a car accident and my car totaled, and at that point I just completely broke down. Like, it was over after that. And I remember leaning a lot on my sister, but I remember specifically there was a time I was sitting crisscross applesauce. Oh, that sounds so childish. Whatever, skip past that. I was sitting with my legs crossed on the floor in my room, looking in the mirror, and a vision, I can't even say really a vision because I know it was from the devil, but I remember seeing myself take this gun that I had and put it to my head and pull the trigger. And I saw my head do like this. Like, it was almost like it was real, but I knew that it wasn't real, obviously, because I was still sitting right there, but it was in my mind, and it was so real in my mind. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I cried because I put the gun to my head, but I could not bring myself to pull the trigger. And it was so much for me at that moment that's when I actually started my comeback to God. Like, I grew up in church, and there was a period where I didn't believe in God. Let me scratch that. I believed in God. I did not believe in Jesus Christ. I was very confused. And at some point I started being into New Age and crystals and tarot cards. I was literally watching a tarot card reading every single day. It was ridiculous, y'all. It was ridiculous. But I remembered like coming back to God, and it's not that it necessarily got easier, but I felt lighter because it felt like he started to carry the load. And so now, with me being as deep as I am with God, now I'm starting to understand my purpose. It took me a while. I got super close to God last year. And then of course I had some setbacks, and then now I'm trying to just get back on track and stay on track. But now I understand that I do have purpose, and I'm working towards truly finding that purpose. I feel like I have bits and pieces of it where I know I'm purposed to, make people laugh, be that supportive person, listen to them when they need me to listen to them, sometimes crack a joke when they need to laugh if they've been having a rough time. But I'm also with YouTube, I'm learning that even more of my purpose may be to help somebody else that they might not be able to get that one-on-one time with me, or even with a therapist, to know that they're understood, to know that they're loved, to know that they have a purpose in this world, and that nobody can take away that purpose for them. Nobody can take it away. And so I guess with learning that, it's kind of put me in a little awkward position because I'm like, that's responsibility. Ugh. That's responsibility. But I'm like, really, I feel like my responsibility is to just talk about the things that I've been through and really open myself up to be vulnerable with not just, my friends and my family, but eventually the world if my YouTube channel, goes anywhere. Even if it's just a small group of 50 people, it'll go somewhere. So I feel like I want y'all to know that you have purpose, that you might be going through certain things right now, and you might feel like you alone. You might feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. You might feel like I used to say, God said he wasn't gonna put them on me that I could bear, and baby, it's bearing. It's bearing. But when it feels like God is putting more on you than you can bear, that's because he wants you to bring your problems to him. So the scripture that says, cast all your cares on him because he cares for you, that's the point of having so much on your plate and you feeling overwhelmed and you feeling like you don't know how you're gonna make it through the rest of the day, let alone really the next hour, let alone the day, let alone the next week, let alone the next month, the next year. It's because God wants you to come back to him and tell him your problems, tell him what you're going through, and lay it at his feet so he can do something with it. Yes, going to your friends and your family, it might feel good in that moment for you to just get it out. And sometimes it might not feel good going to God. And sometimes you might have to come to God angry. That's okay. He understands. He made us with these emotions. It's okay to be like, God, I'm mad at you right now. I'm pissed off. I'm pissed. Because you playing. And you playing a little bit too much for me right now. And this is what you said. This is what you said. I didn't put the words in your mouth. That's what you said. Y'all verbatim. I've said that to God before. We're not going to talk about it. Not today. But you got to give a lot of your issues to God, because if you don't and you keep trying to carry them, you're going to burst under pressure. You're going to end up yelling at somebody, flashing on somebody, cursing somebody out, hitting somebody. You might end up in jail. We don't need that. We definitely don't need that. But you got to cast your cares on God and trust that he knows what you're going through. He's putting you through those things because he's trying to get something from you. And I don't want to make this video too long, so I guess I'm going to leave it there. But for the purpose of this, I just need y'all to know that you are purposed. Okay, well, have a great day.